Welcome to Building Better Relationships with Chuck and Barb Lewis, equipping listeners and viewers with the biblical tools to conquer the difficulties faced in this life. Chuck has practiced crisis intervention since the 1980s and has been in ministry together with his wife Barb for over 20 years. They've taken the countless lessons and the knowledge they've acquired and have put them into this life skills class to share with you. We hope this blesses you.
Well, hello again. This is Pastor Chuck Lewis, and this is my wife.
I'm Barbara.
And we welcome you to another Building Better Relationships. And the reason why we have these broadcasts is to help you and help us with building better relationships, because we all need to know how to do that.
That's right.
I know how to strain a relationship, but building better relationships is quite another task. So the more we know, the more we can incorporate into our relationships.
That's right.
So today's topic is...
Today we're going to talk about building better relationships with our adult children.
Yeah, and you know, some of you might have little children right now, and you think, wow, I would love to be able to pass this time and have adult children. But that time will come. You know, it's amazing how fast time goes. I can remember when my daughter was just really small and I was bouncing her on my knee, and now she has children and her children have children.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, it's like, how could that possibly happen? But boy, time goes by.
It does. But it's fun. It's a nice stage of life to have adult kids.
It really is. And you know, it's just like everything else. If you know more of what to do and more of what you don't need to do, it makes the relationships go a lot better, doesn't it?
That's right. Yep.
So let's talk about what you do with adult children, basically.
Right, because we love our kids and we want to be there for them. And so we just want to talk about a few issues that you can have with your kids. And one of them is we can easily become over-involved in their lives. And we just want to talk about a few signs of being over-involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, is our child relying excessively on us for financial support?
Right.
You know, or
right.
Are we paying their bills for them, or constantly giving them emergency cash? Are we involved in their daily decisions? Are we always helping them solve problems? And, you know, I think a big one, do we feel responsible for their happiness and for their outcomes? We might feel responsible for their success or their lack of success.
Right,
you know, are you constantly worrying about their choices? You know, these are all signs that you've become over-involved. Do you feel emotional distress over minor things that are going on in their lives?
Mm-hmm.
Is your day constantly being hijacked by what's going on with them? You know, because love without limits can turn into enabling.
Right.
And, you know, can you think of any other ways that we can be over-involved with our kids, or signs, just to help us know what the signs are of being over-involved?
Well, I mean, I've had people say, well, I don't feel like I'm being a loving parent unless I continue to take care of them and meet their needs basically like I did when they were children. And you know, when they're children, that is appropriate. But when they become an adult, you know, like to pay their bills for them if they're not spending money appropriately and they're always getting into financial problems, and then they come to you to bail them out, you know, that could be a sign of being overly involved.
Right.
I remember talking to a guy, a kid one time, you know, I was like 19 years old, I think he was 18, 19. And he had this most beautiful Trans Am Pontiac. And I loved that car. I mean, that car was so awesome. I mean, he drove it up one time, and I just said, oh, Lord, you know, help me not to covet, because I really wanted that car. That's really a cool car. Well, one day he came and talked to me, and he said, I said, how's your week going? He said, I wrapped my car around a telephone pole.
Oh,
He said I
no.
went too fast, and that's what happened. And I said, "Were you hurt?" He said, "No, not at all, but boy, it totaled my car." And I was just sick about that. I said, "Oh man, I bet you're totally devastated." And he said, "Not really. My dad would just buy me another one."
Oh, wow.
And there was no consequence to his action because he knew his dad would just buy him another car. So that would be over involvement. That would be an example of being too involved. And you're teaching your children basically that whenever they get in a crisis, you're just going to come and bail them out no matter what it is. If they get thrown in jail, you're going to always bail them out. If they get drunk, and you're going to come and bring them home. I mean, all kind of things we can do to enable our children. And it's hard, very hard, and it's called tough love to let them experience their own natural consequences.
Right. Yeah, I had a friend that his son ran up a bunch of credit card bills, like $25,000 in credit card bills. And so he paid off all of his son's credit card bills for him.
Yeah,
And then his son did it again,
right.
and he paid them off again. And then his son did it again. So because he kept removing the consequences, he just kept doing it over again. Well, the third time he got smart and let his son pay off his own credit card debt.
Right.
But, there are consequences to actions, and if we remove the consequences for our kids, we experience them. So it's not like there aren't any, but you're taking the consequences away from the person that should be
Right.
experiencing them, and you're the one that's carrying the load.
Yeah.
So, some of the results of that is you can hinder your kids' ability to manage their own life effectively. They need to learn to fly on their own. And all of their lives, as we're raising kids, we're raising them to become adults. We don't want to raise them to remain children for the rest of their lives. Emotional children.
Well, and really, it's a risk to draw those kind of boundaries because you're running the risk of your child getting mad at you and saying, "Well, if you're not going to bail me out anymore or take care of me," they're not going to use those words, but they're going to say, "If you're not going to help me when I need help, then what good are you?" And we're not going to have a relationship anymore. I'm not going to speak to you anymore. All this stuff. And they can threaten you with that. And I think that's why a lot of parents continue to enable their child because they're afraid of the loss of the child abandoning them and rejecting them.
Afraid of their disapproval.
Yeah.
And when a child has someone continue to pay for things, make decisions, and do everything for them, they can become entitled.
Totally.
And just think that you owe it to them, and so does the world. And then when they get out in the real world, it's a rude awakening because nobody likes to be around somebody that's entitled and thinks the world owes them something, But they can learn to manipulate you into giving things.
So I think one of the greatest things we can do is we can teach them that if they make choices that they're going to reap consequences. They're the ones that's going to reap those consequences. It's not a we thing. It's a you thing. It's what are you going to do to learn from this? You can say to your child, or you can say that to yourself. What do I need to learn so that I'm not enabling them? There's financial counselors. There's a lot of people that can give good advice if your children are open to learning how to manage their money better. But the fact is, they're never going to learn how to do it unless you stop enabling them. And sometimes people think, well, I guess I'm not loving them if I'm not enabling them.
Right. If I haven't fixed the problem for them, then I still have work to do.
Right.
I think sometimes we need to look at our own life and see what is missing. If we're over involved with our kids, are we what are we gaining? What is emotional need in us? Is it meeting in us for us to be over involved? I think it's important for parents to have healthy autonomy, have your own career, your own hobbies, your own friends.
Right.
And we love having relationship with our kids and just enjoy them so much and have a lot of fun together. And it is a much more enjoyable relationship when it's healthy and balanced, because a result for a parent of the over-involvement you can be drained and exhausted. And one thing I want to mention too, if loaning money to somebody is going to cause you financial hardship if they don't pay you back, then the answer's got to be no.
Sure.
You can't loan or give money to somebody if it's going to cause you to be in a financial bind.
Right.
But, knowing that we need to have our own healthy autonomy, let's talk a little bit about the solution. I think it's important, and to even think of it this way, that we owe our kids the dignity of making their own mistakes.
Right.
Because it helps them learn to be self-reliant. Chuck and I have realized that struggle is a part of growth. That if you don't struggle, it's just like a butterfly has to struggle to get out of the cocoon, and doing that builds strength. The chick needs to struggle to break out of the egg, and if you crack the egg open for the chick, it'll die because it hasn't built up that strength. And
right.
The struggle is important for our kids too. So do you want to talk about boundaries? What are some ways that boundaries can be part of the solution? How can we have healthy boundaries?
Well, and that's the goal, is to building better relationships with our kids. We've got to have good boundaries and be able to say no when we mean no. And no doesn't mean maybe. No means no. And sometimes tough love says, no, I can't do that for you. I can't bail you out. I can't pay this off for you, whatever it is. You're going to need to learn from this experience. So setting good boundaries is letting them learn from that bad choice, and that's so hard when you care so much, for your kids. You want to just take care of it for them and hope they'll learn from it next time. But when we enable them, we're teaching them that we're going to take care of it, and they won't have any consequences for their choices, which they'll just keep repeating it over and over. I know a lot of the hard choices, the bad choices I've made, I've had to learn from.
Me too.
And that taught me not to do that again. Now, if I'd had somebody bailing me out every time I made those choices, I might have never learned from them. But I didn't have anybody to bail me out. So I knew that if I made those wrong choices, I was going to have to pay the consequences for that. But that became one of the greatest life lessons that I could have ever learned. And your kids will learn that too if you let them. If you don't rescue them and you don't take care of everything that they need, then they're going to learn it for sure.
Right. And in order for us to switch from managing our kids to mentoring them, we might need to take an emotional step back from what's going on from them, and we can call that detaching. But we detach with love. It's not a wall.
Yes.
And it's not abandoning them. It's just for us to emotionally take a step back from what's going on. We're moving away from daily decision making and only providing them guidance when they ask us. In fact, unsolicited advice is criticism. So if your kids aren't asking you for your advice and you give it to them anyway, that's criticizing. So basically you've moved from a parent into the role of a consultant. And yes. I think that it's important let's just say your child is venting to you about something going on with them, and you feel like you know the answer or you've got a good suggestion, you can just say, Would you like feedback about that? And so you're asking them a question and you're being respectful, and they might say no. Maybe they just want you to hear what's going on. But it's us releasing control of our kids and loving them. And I think we can confuse love with control, or control with love. And controlling isn't loving.
Right.
Obsessing about what someone is doing isn't love.
Yeah.
And it also isn't trusting God, because God isn't through with your kids yet. And you want them to build reliance on Him, not you. And when you remove consequences, then sometimes they can't learn the lesson that God is trying to teach them. So,
yes, absolutely.
the results, when we can actually let go, it's like living our own life and letting them live theirs, is we have a lot less stress, we feel less anxiety, we're not shouldering their daily burdens. But I think when we keep telling them what they should do, we can be giving them the message, I don't think you can do this.
Right, absolutely.
You don't have the brains to figure this out, so I have to do it for you.
Step in and take care of this, yeah.
Right, so it keeps them from building self-reliance and confidence in themselves.
The Bible said, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they'll not depart from it. It didn't say, train up a child and make sure they go. See, our part is to be the example.
Right.
So if you don't know the example to be, if you don't know the boundaries, if you don't know how to be a good, godly example, you can learn how to be that example to your children and pick up some parenting skills along the way. We're never too old to learn, and you can pick up those parenting skills now if you've never learned them before. And no matter what age your child is, it's going to help you to know how to draw good boundaries, when to say yes, when to say no, and how to take control of your life. And we're not suggesting any of this to get into becoming a controller of your family, but it's learning how to be an advisor. It's learning how to advise when you're asked the questions. And I've had people say, yeah, well, I wish my kids would ask me questions. Well, the more you advise, they might have the freedom to ask you more. But if you're trying to continue to parent them and tell them what they need to do and what they shouldn't do, then they might not ask your advice.
So in setting boundaries, we have to look at what is in my control. So what's inside my hula hoop is my money, my time, my energy, my marriage, my relationships. That's what I can control. Outside of my hula hoop is what their belief systems are, what their actions and behaviors are, their choices. Your kids are outside of your hula hoop when they're adults. And
Right.
so it's figuring out where you end and they begin.
Absolutely. And again, it might be painful at first. Growing pains, don't feel good. And sometimes these kind of growing pains don't feel good either. I remember when I was a teenager, and I was, I'm pretty tall, and so, when I was growing, when I was like in my teens, my knees and my legs were hurting really bad, and I thought, man, there's something really wrong with me. Well, what I found out was all they were was growing pains. I was going to be 6'3" or whatever it was that I got up to. I think 6'3" is the tallest I got, and that took a lot of stretching of my bones and my muscles, and that did not feel good. But the outcome was growth. It wasn't up to me to stunt my growth because it hurt. It was up to me to let that natural process happen. And this works the same way. So you can be free today if you draw good boundaries with your adult children. You can learn how to build better relationships And you can let them know how much you love them, how much you care, and how much you're praying for them. But teach them that their choices are going to be their choices. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a choice that you become involved in, that you're going to take the consequences away from them if they make bad choices. But you can still have and build a good boundary system with them and build a better relationship with them that glorifies God, makes you feel like you're a good parent, and you're not failing your children to say no, but you're being a good godly example. And our prayer for you is that you'll do this so that you can have a successful relationship with your adult children. Well, we've got to go. Our time is gone again, but we ask you to press the like, subscribe, and share button on this program. That really helps us, and we will look forward to seeing you again next time. God bless.
If you are blessed by this ministry, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also make donations at chucklewisministries.com. Join us to keep uncovering the tools to build better relationships together. Let's do this again next week.